this video, I'm going to show you how I crochet the V-stitch. I'm using DK weight acrylic yarn, and I've got a 4mm hook and a 4.5mm hook to use in my sample, and I'll explain why I've got two different size hooks in a moment. Just a reminder that in my videos I use UK crochet terms throughout. So V-stitch is a lovely stitch. I find it quite a quick one as well, which is always a bonus. And as you can see, it creates these nice V shapes in the stripes. It's great if you've got quite a lot of colours because you can get some really nice random stripes going on. But I love it. It's a great stitch. It's got a lovely texture and it's a quick, easy one to learn. First of all, I'll explain why I've got two different size hooks. With striped blankets, I quite like to use one size bigger hook to work the foundation chain. So I'm going to use a 4.5mm hook to work my foundation chain, and then I'll swap it over to the 4mm hook to work the rest of the blanket. I've just found that it just stops the bottom of the blanket from curling. I don't know if it's a tension thing, I don't know if it happens to everybody, but I've just found it good practice. So you might want to try it too if you're having problems with your stripy blankets curling along the bottom edge. I've mentioned this before on my blog and probably on my videos as well actually, that I don't count the whole length of the foundation chain, I just count the stitch multiple. And the reason I do this is because if I know that if I tried to count lots and lots of stitches up to 88, 89, somebody would come along and interrupt me and I'd just lose count and have to start all over again. And I just find that by just counting the multiple, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, for example, if I get interrupted, I don't tend to lose count as easily. So it's just something to bear in mind if you find you're in a busy household and you might get interrupted. You might find it easier to count the stitch multiple rather than the whole length of the whole foundation chain. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, with my 4.5mm hook, is I'm just going to make a little sample foundation chain. And the multiple for V-stitch is 3 plus 2 at the end. So I'm going to be counting in threes until it's about the length I want it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's have a little look. Maybe we'll just have one more multiple there. 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to add 2 more on the end. So I'm sorry that might not have looked very flowing when I made that, but sitting at a desk crocheting under a camera is not my normal environment for crocheting. So apologies if that was a bit sort of stop-start. And I'm now going to change to the 4mm hook to start our first row of V-stitch. So I've changed my hook size and I'm going to work a treble crochet into the 4th chain from my hooks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So just a normal treble crochet into that 4th chain from your hook. I'm now going to chain 1 and I'm going to work 2 trebles together over the next 3 chains. So the first half of my 2 trebles together is going to be worked into the chain that we just worked into. So yarn over your hook, insert your hook into that same chain, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, and that's the first half of your 2 trebles together done. And then we're going to work the second half of our 2 trebles together, but we need to skip a foundation chain first. So put your yarn over your hook, skip the next chain and then work into the next chain along. So pop your hook in, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all the remaining 3 hook loops on your hook, and that's your 2 trebles together. Chain 1 again, and we're just going to repeat. So we're just going to do another 2 trebles together. So yarn over, work into the chain that you've already worked into for the first half, and then the second half is worked into the next but one chain. So skip a chain and work into the next chain along. Let's get my hook in properly, there we go. And that's another 2 trebles together done. You can start to see the V stitches forming now. So chain 1 again and 2 trebles together. So just repeat the process. First half of the treble 2 together in that chain we just worked into. Skip a chain and the second half of the treble 2 together, work into the next chain along. Chain 1, and I'm just going to keep repeating that all the way along the foundation chain. So just keep repeating chain 1, treble 2 together. So I'll just do that now, and I'll meet you once we get towards the end of the row. So I'm almost at the end of the foundation chain now, so I'm at the point where I'm going to do a chain 1, and I'm going to work my next 2 trebles together. And now I've just got 1 chain left, and I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to work first half of my treble 2 together into that same chain we just worked into, and then I'm going to work the second half of my treble 2 together into that last chain. And that's our first row done, and you can see we've got several V stitches all the way along there. And I'm going to fasten off this colour, ready to start the next colour. I'm going to work the next row, this nice turquoise blue colour, so just make a slip knot, pop it onto my hook, and I'm going to cast this colour onto the end of our first row. I like to use a standing stitch rather than turning chains. I just find that I get a straighter edge that way. So if you are having problems with straight edges, you might want to try a standing stitch instead of the traditional turning chain. So what I'm going to do is just pop my hook into that last stitch there that we made, and I'm going to work my standing stitch, which will be a double crochet, 1 chain, and then I'm going to turn my work, and that represents our first treble crochet. So first of all, I'm going to work a treble crochet into the first chain 1 space of the previous row, and I'm now going to work the first 2 trebles together. So chain 1 first, and then I'm going to work the first half of my 2 trebles together into that same chain space we just worked into, and the second half of my 2 trebles together will be worked into the next chain space along. Chain 1, and then 2 more trebles together. So the first half goes into the first chain space that we just worked into, and the second half goes into the next chain space. And you can see the V stitches forming there directly on top of the V stitches from the previous row. Chain 1, repeat again, so 2 trebles together, first half into the first chain space, the one that we've just worked into, and the second half into the next chain space along. Chain 1, 2 trebles together, chain 1, 2 trebles together, we're just going to repeat that all the way along the row. So I'll do that now and meet you when we get to the end. So I'm now almost at the end of this row, and you can see my V stitches are all forming nicely along there. So I've just completed a 2 treble together, so chain 1, and we're going to work the first half of our next treble 2 together into that chain space we've just worked into, and the second half of that stitch is going to go into the turning chain from the previous row. So I like to work my stitch into that turning chain there like that, and that is our second row completed, and we'll fasten off that colour. And we'll get ready to fasten on our next colour. Now, before I move on to the next row, just a word about ends. You might want to try and crochet over your ends if that's how you like to do things. Because V-stitch is a little bit gappy, I'm not sure I'd recommend it, but if that's the way you prefer to deal with your ends, then and give it a go, it might work fine. I prefer to just weave all mine in backwards and forwards at the end. I'm definitely a glutton for punishment when it comes to ends. So what we'll do now is we'll go on to our third row with our next colour. I'm going to use this lime green colour. And it's exactly the same as what we did with the previous row. That's the beauty of this stitch, is it's just one row repeat. Every row is the same. So we're going to do our standing stitch again. So pop your hook into that last stitch and work a double crochet, 1 chain for your standing stitch, and then turn your work. And then once again, we're just going to continue working our treble 2 togethers and the chains. So the first thing we do is just work a normal treble into that first chain space, and then we start the repeat. So it's chain 1 and then 2 trebles together. Chain 1 and then 2 more trebles together. So the trebles together are being worked into those chain spaces created by the V stitches from the previous row. So you can see the V's are now starting to mount on top of each other there, and you're just going to repeat that all along the row again. So that is the beauty of this stitch. There's no counting involved, and it's just a 1 row repeat. So it's perfect for those busy days where you just want something that's a bit easy on the brain, that you don't really have to think about too much. So just carry on all the way along the row, exactly how we did before. So I'm coming up to the end of this row now, so chain 1, 2 trebles together, and then the last V stitch to work into. So chain 1 and that last treble 2 together for that one, and then we've just got to finish off the row. So it's chain 1, work the first half of your treble 2 together into that last chain space, and then the second half of your treble 2 together you're going to be working into the standing stitch from the previous row. So I like to work it into, I don't know if you can see there, this little hole here. Wiggle your hook in and just work your treble into there. And like I say, I just find that I get straighter edges by doing standing stitches rather than turning chains. And that's our third row completed. So fasten off that colour. And then to make more rows, you just continue in exactly the same way. Every row is exactly the same, and you can see your V stitches start to form on top of each other, and it's just a really, really lovely stitch. So if you want a nice, quick and easy make, V stitch is definitely the one for you. Thank you very much for watching my video today. If you would like to see more of my crochet videos, you can find them on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and to keep up to date with what I'm making, come and follow me on socials. Bye for now.